Well, it's that time again, folks. Welcome to Lore Cattle Ranch. My name is GiBi, and on October 30th, 2023, Chris Chan held his second live stream since returning to the internet. Titled Reading Chaos Crystal Control Act 4, the stream contained Chris reading Chaos Crystal Control Act 4. As Chris will go on to explain, Chaos Crystal Control is a 10, or depending on how you count it, 11, act prose story that Chris wrote in December of 2022 while he was in jail. The story is a response to the fanfiction SNT vs. Sonichu, which Chris does not like because it paints him in a very poor light. Alright, let's begin.
Hey everyone! Oh, I forgot to close it. I forgot to close the door.
Great start. Chris has green screened himself into a new background, this time as some sort of office. His chroma keying is still off because the yellow on his Sonichu medallion is still transparent. Chris states that the live stream will be him reading, in part, a story that he had visions of in jail titled Chaos Crystal Control, which depicts the real events of February 2006.
I wrote this within just 1 month. This entire thing. I'm just gonna show y'all really quick a little bit of a sample. You're gonna love this. You love how people can write really small. Look at this. I can write within 2 lines, and I can write even smaller than that. And this is a full-fledged lined notebook sheet of paper.
A viewer asks that Chris bless their sick cat, and Chris performs the following ritual.
To LD's cat. Cleanse the air, recover the sick cat.
Chris foreshadows an image that he will show later, and he talks about real people who went back in time to 2006.
One particular drawing that comes about in a later part of this of these events, because a lot of individuals just go back in time. So obviously, whether or not I wrote you in.
But before he could finish this thought, someone sends a donation asking for a blessing. They state that their name is Ian. This upsets Chris, who thinks that it's a reference to Ian Brandon Anderson.
Can we please not? Because the name's not Ian. I'm Jesus Christine Weston Chandler Sonichu, and I'm the prime of all Christ Chans and Christians from throughout the entire multiverse. So please, respect. There's no Ian Brandon Anderson, period.
Chris then starts talking about Project SNT, a YouTuber who had been making art based around Sonichu before Chris's arrest, and who I've covered on this channel. A fanfiction called SNT vs. Sonichu was later created by a fanfic writer named Opus Con. Chris mentions that SNT went on a journey through the multiverse because of the actions and death of Opus Con.
Because also, SNT, Project SNT was created by Namgay, ended up going throughout the multiverse a few times, thanks to the late and really dead Opus Con 789.
So apparently Chris has decided that Opus Con, the real person, is dead. Opus Con has most recently updated the SNT Sonichu fanfic back in August, so probably not dead. Chris states that Project SNT had psychic connections with Chris while he was Jesus dying on the cross.
Yeah, but anyway, she has a vision where she ends up empathizing with me when I was on the cross back when I was Jesus in Nazareth back in Jerusalem. Anyway, so a lot of y'all might have seen this picture and thought that was like Sonichu, but obviously no, that's not Sonichu. Sonichu's not blue.
Yes, Chris depicts Jesus as his own Sonichu character, and the canonical Sonichu lore is that Jesus, as he was dying, had a psychic conversation with a YouTuber.
So it's like the first half of the Dimension Merge happened back in 2006, which it involved literally Sonic and Princess Elise, those events that essentially became undone, but that was the first half of the Dimension Merge.
Okay, so Chris is stating that the Dimensional Merge which, as a refresher, is the idea that our universe is slowly merging with the Sonichu universe, the Sonichu universe itself being a universe in which all fictional ideas exist. We are twin universes in that what we create here appears there. There are other universes in the multiverse, but we are the main two, and we are crossing over and we are going to merge with our counterparts from the other dimension. Chris also uses this as some sort of rapture event. He thinks that many humans will die in the merge because only creative people have counterparts in the other dimension, and thus non-creatives will just die. So he's stating that the dimensional merge has been happening since 2006. 2006 being the year that Sonic the Hedgehog was rebooted in what gamers call Sonic 06, a massively hated game that failed to start a successful reboot.
A Dimension Terror Rift happened that started the first half, that came out in the first half of the Dimension Merge back in February 2006. And obviously the thing was over Quickville.
Chris is saying that it was at this point in which the merge began in order to retcon that game out of existence. The rapture started with the release of Sonic 06.
As written in here, and there's lots and lots of individuals, and also so it'll be a frequently asked question, as I noted in the cast list at the end on the last page of this. Am I involved in this story? Yes, you are. Whether I wrote you in specifically or not.
After going over the premise of the story, Chris mentions that there's a cast list that includes a lot of individuals, even though some don't physically appear in the story. Chris still assures us that they were in fact involved in the events and did travel back to 2006. Chris holds up his custom amiibo figures for the adult children of Sonichu and Rosechu, and their yellow appears transparent. Chris then says,
"Darn this freaking green screen of fat! We gotta do something about this!" Now I'm reaching out, and my friends are helping me with these details as well, but anyway.
Meaning that yes, Chris is having someone help him with his streams. That is something that we were all able to guess, but it is now confirmed. Chris explains that he wrote this in jail in December, presumably December of 2022, and that it is 11 acts if you include Act 0. It's also well over 100 pages. For some reason, he's going to be reading Act 4 for us today.
Chaos Crystal Control Act 4. Sonichu, Rosie, and Lightning on the town. Monday, February 27th, 2006. Quickville, Virginia, United States of America. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sonichu Prime, Rosie Roshi Prime had awoken an hour earlier, as did Roberta Sonichu and Sarah Rosechu. They all washed up, enjoyed breakfast, and the morning conversation. And on the nearby print of the Quickville Press newspaper, the headline on the front page read, "Locals go strange from merge stress," and the subtext under that read, "Businesses disrupted during the day."
Now, I could just let this whole story play out, but I'm not going to do that. For one, it's technically copyright infringement. And for another, it's a whole lot of nothing. At least, the way that Chris is narrating it is a whole lot of nothing. So I'm going to be summarizing the story and playing highlights. Sonichu and Rosechu are leaving the house, and they tell the kids to behave and do their chores. They then run from Quickville to New York City. Nightstar, the pony version of Chris, and Rainbow Dash apparently live together. Rainbow Dash is apparently also a fan of the TV show Frasier, just like Chris, because she starts to sing the closing theme song.
"Oh baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs."
Rainbow Dash, although I think it's the human version of Rainbow Dash, she then goes to the Sonichu house to hang out with the Sonichu kids, and she spots a 2,000-page book about prophecies from Hyrule. It's signed by both the actual Princess Zelda from Zelda, as well as Zelina Rosechu, a character from Sonichu who is a parody of Zelda, meaning that for some reason, both of them exist.
So this happened right after the events of SNT vs. Sonichu 3 Fractured Realities.
Chris has made the SNT vs. Sonichu stories canon, which is kind of silly because he hates them. So I can only assume that he has stated that their events happen, but not in the exact way that those stories play out. And that means that now I need to finish reading and making videos about SNT vs. Sonichu 2 and 3 because I stopped after 1, and they are now canon. The S&T characters meet up with Bubbles Rosechew and they explain the events of their adventure, which Chris glosses over, despite that being the most important part of the story for him to exposit about. Because we don't know it. The Otaku King leaves a $1 donation saying, "Hey, stopping by to say hi quick. Keep the story going. Much love, buddy." The Otaku King is a new white knight who refuses to heed people's warnings about Chris. Chris does not acknowledge him. During this time, he literally only looks up to thank somebody for a $50 donation. Hey, let's take this time to check in on Chris's total donation. For the whole stream thus far, Chris has made $214.34. Chris then introduces the avatars from the Analysis Anarchy YouTube series, specifically YouTuber Dr. Wolf, who has been teleported to Quickville by Magichan. Meanwhile, at the Team Rocket hideout, Nate Cirque has been channeling the Akashic records and has fallen asleep at his desk having written 500 pages.
Literally connected with the Akashic records and writing a whole mess of metaphysical details and comparing science and religion and putting it all together in a single day. Just
Nate Cirque is awoken by Team Rocket scientist GiBi. Chris has explicitly stated that this is not in any way related to YouTuber GiBi and merely has the same name.
Scientist GiBi knocks on the Nate Cirque's door. Nate Cirque is startled awake at about 9 a.m. sitting up at a joke. The Ribbon Club is meeting at the water fountain again.
This will become confusing in about 10 seconds. Cut to New York City, whose skyline Chris mentions has the Empire State Building, Stark Tower, the Statue of Liberty, and some other buildings. A portal opens and YouTuber Lightning Bliss emerges, having no idea how she arrived in New York in 2006.
She takes some deep breaths. Oh, okay, Lightning Bliss, calm down. You're somehow on Earth. It's okay. I'll just open the portal back to my channel and go back. Yeah. She focuses on her mind and uses her magic to open a portal with rainbow edges. She hops in. She's at where her YouTube channel base would be, alright, but there was absolutely nothing there aside from a pet rat or two. Not even a door to an analyst's hallway. What happened to my channel? Her shout echoes. Oh, this is not good. She decides to hop back through the portal, then close it.
I'm pretty sure what just happened is she tried to teleport back home, but because she had traveled back in time, her home does not exist yet. Lightning Bliss then teleports to the outskirts of the city to avoid humans. Sonichu and Rosechew run into her, and Chris shows us this drawing, which is of course unintelligible because of the green screen. Lightning Bliss then accompanies Sonichu and Rosechew into the city to help Chris.
So yeah, you saw it. This was on Twitter a little while ago. There's GiBi. He came back in time as well.
They run into the YouTuber GiBi, not to be confused with the Team Rocket scientist of the same name. Chris holds up a picture he had previously drawn of this meeting that he had posted on Twitter. In the image, Sonichu, Rosechew, and Lightning Bliss are fighting evil hedgehogs. In the story, Chris does not explain the evil hedgehogs.
Oh my gosh! Is that Sonichu, Rosie, and Alicorn? Yeah, GiBi, that you. You went back in time, man. GiBi went back in time.
I feel like this goes without saying, but I can attest that I did not, in fact, go back in time to 2006, nor have I ever met Sonichu. They eventually meet Rouge the Bat and also a tattered Magichan, who exposits that in his dimension, Quickville and Chris Chan were destroyed, and so now he has lost his mind and he is evil. His name is Magichan Rav, because he is ravenous.
I've lost my mind, and I'm taking it out on your universe! He turns with red and counterclockwise spirals in his eyes and face like a ravenous beast. Magichan Rav, as I'm just nicknaming him just for, this one turned ravenous.
Lightning Bliss kills him. Chris Chan starts explaining his naming convention for the main Sonichu character.
In the Prime Universe, which is Prime Timeline, which is this one, is known as Sonichu Prime and Rosie Prime, as they are the prime of not only all Sonichus and Rosechus in this universe and timeline, and all throughout the multiverse, but in all the other universes, the Sonichu and Rosie Silph counterparts are known as Sonichu the First and Rosie Rosechu the First, or varying depending on the situations, like obviously within the gender-bent universe.
Okay, so this is a necessity because Chris Chan's current canon is a combination of a lot of nonsense, and a lot of elements taken from different franchises. Okay, so the main character Sonichu is named Sonichu, and his species is also called Sonichu. This is taken from Pokemon, where there are a lot of Pikachu, the species is named Pikachu, but the name Pikachu refers to a specific character, the one in the show. Pikachu is a species as well as a character. Sonichu is a species as well as a character. Chris's solution to this was to christen Sonichu as Sonichu Prime, and Rosechu as Rosechu Prime, to differentiate them from the name of their species. All other Sonichus and Rosechus have their own name, like Bubbles Rosechu, Punchy Sonichu, etc. However, because there is a multiverse, that means that other universes have the same problem, where the original Sonichu doesn't have a name and thus needs a title, but they can't be Sonichu Prime because this is Sonichu Prime, because C-197 is the main Sonichu universe. The obvious solution to this would be to name our Sonichu Sonichu Prime 197, which itself makes no sense as the name of the universe because it's supposed to be the second most important universe, so it really should just be Universe 2, and we should be Universe 1, but Chris took the naming convention for our universe from Marvel, where we are Universe 1218, and he took the naming convention for Sonichu's universe from Rick and Morty, so they're Universe C-197, and thus the main Sonichu and Rosechu from other universes are Sonichu and Rosechu the First, and there is only one Sonichu Prime, and he is the Sonichu Prime from Dimension C-197, which is the second most important universe in the multiverse after Universe 1218, which is reality. And that is what Chris was just trying to explain. You're welcome.
Here's a detail, a big difference between the Chaos Crystal Balls and the Chaos Emeralds, aside from the lightning and electricity benefits in the Chaos Crystal Balls.
A bunch of other Sonichus and Rosechus join them, as do the Transformers. So Sonichu is fighting a Decepticon who has a Chaos Emerald from Sonic, and Chris is explaining the power difference between the Chaos Crystal Balls from Sonichu and the Chaos Emeralds from Sonic.
So a Chaos Emerald is 1/8 power level of a Master Emerald. That's roughly about 12.5%. And a Chaos Crystal Ball is 15% power level of Master Emerald. So, time for I to light our darkness hour, Sonichu Prime says aloud as he massively mock punches the Decepticon symbol on the Transceptor's chest, smashing through. The original Chaos Emerald is forced out the back of the robot, and Rue swoops in, snags it, and flies away.
So since Sonichus and Rosechus are Pokemon, they can Mega Evolve. In Pokemon, that requires a specific stone. So like Charizard has Charizardite, and Sonichu has Sonichite. But those didn't exist until 2010, or so Chris says, so he has to make up a reason that his Pokemon can still Mega Evolve in 2006.
But here's the thing, so the Sonichites and Rosechites that came about from the Chaos Crystal Balls in 2010 had not occurred yet. But alternatively, they could use a Chaos Crystal Ball or a Master or a Chaos Emerald to Mega Evolve. But it just would be at a fraction of the power, as opposed to just going full on super form.
After a climactic battle, Chris moves the perspective to one of the Brony YouTubers, who I think is named Scribs, and Scribs is chronicling Chris Chan. And he mentions Barbara. Keep in mind, this was written in December of 2022.
In Quickville in her bedroom at 10 o'clock p.m., Old Bad Scribbler is eating an apple fresh from the fruit bowl and enjoying a growing book, while making mental notes on how best to chronicle Christ Chan Prime with her powers, ability, skills, and forms tangible, getting out of jail and return to Sonichu Temple and Barbara legally and safely without mucking it up.
So in December, Chris was still trying to not only go home, but to have his legal issues with Barb resolved and to be home with her. In his recent live streams, he has basically disavowed her. But as recently as last December, he wanted to go home with her.
But I will be collaborating and getting this all written out and printed and everything. We're going to have books drawn of all of this. Drawn, written, everything, and so forth. It's going to take some time to get into it, but there you go. That's a little sample of it.
Chris says that he is going to, with help, get all of this turned into a Sonichu series of comics. While in jail, he was saying that he was writing new comics, so this does line up with that. An original story by Chris is something we have not had in a very long time. Right after this, the Otaku King comes back and asks Chris if he wants to play with him in the snow.
If I had my phone to look up, I'd go see if there was snow coming up.
Chris then starts rattling off why he dislikes Noel, Bella Janke, and Dylan Thomas, how they're haters, etc. He then says this.
And, oh yeah, and of course, Sockness at the time, apparently he's long gone forgotten. I'm never saying his name again.
Assuming that Chris sticks to this means that the era of Jacob can finally be put to rest. He's been trying to contact Chris again, but Chris isn't just rejecting him, he's saying he's going to ignore and forget him. And that is the best possible outcome. Otaku King sends another message to Chris, which he completely ignores. Someone named Ian sends a chat again, and Chris starts going off about Ian Brandon Anderson. He says it's a dead meme and he's not gonna fall for it anymore.
The ones that came about for me in repetition, I mean the Julie, the Ian, I pretty much debunked all of that already. Hey, the late 2000s called. They want their memes back. Nick Gurr. Hey, Nick, thank you.
I'm almost at a loss for words. Chris had interpreted a user being named Ian as a reference to Ian Brandon Anderson, and Chris said he's not going to fall for that anymore. Then, he immediately falls for the same prank he fell for in the last live stream. He even caught himself that time, but he does it again, and he didn't even realize it. Chris then gives us his prediction for Israel versus Palestine and Russia versus Ukraine.
The Israelites shall succeed in that war between them and Palestine. And with the cardiac arrest in Putin recently, you shall see his physical fall by his own weapon as prophesied.
And then we get Chris speaking in tongues.
Flingen stengene glabiga zeug gesishi freak benegana or gonna beni or so bigasi or leoka pisala are the obni or because so big on the opisa or because so big I opisi a shifini begamana or gonna beni oh is so big ada.
And that's the end of it. Long story short, this story is about Chris writing in SNT vs. Sonichu into canon, and then right back out of canon by saying it's something that happened in another universe, that all the characters are gonna die, and that his universe is good. And everyone, all the good guys win. Also, he really hates the author OpusCon. I guess we'll find out more if this comic ever comes out. I'm sure you're all waiting on bated breath for the donation total for this stream. And so, I am sorry to inform you that before fees and taxes, Chris has made $409.14 off of this live stream. Thank you for watching. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at GiBi_Devin, and make sure to subscribe for the ongoing tragedy of Chris Chan.
Pardon me.